The classroom hummed with the low chatter of alien students, each representing a different species from across the galaxy. At the center of it all stood Professor Zalvorn, a towering insectoid with multifaceted eyes that reflected the sterile glow of the Academy's overhead lights. His mandibles clicked as he addressed the class. "Your next assignment," he announced, "is to capture a Zytherian Voidstalker." Silence fell. Even the reptilian warborns stopped their usual scoffing. The Voidstalker was a nightmare, a creature of shifting shadows, razor-sharp tendrils, and a predatory intelligence that made it one of the most feared beings in the known universe. I swallowed hard. "Ah, Professor, did you say capture?" Zalvorn's gaze landed on me, his tone dripping with condescension. "Ah, our lone human. Perhaps I should assign you something simpler?" Laughter rippled through the class. "No," I said quickly, my pride outweighing my common sense. "I'll do it." A few students shook their heads. The Zytherian Voidstalker had been deemed uncontrollable even by the most advanced species. The assignment wasn't just difficult, it was a death sentence. After class, a blue-skinned Azari named Vex smirked as he fell in step beside me. "I hope you have a backup clone, human. No one in the history of this academy has ever captured a Voidstalker. Even the Zorkath failed, and they have bioweapons for blood." I ignored him, but doubt gnawed at my confidence. Humans weren't known for brute strength or advanced genetics. We weren't the fastest, strongest, or most technologically advanced. So why was I even here? Because humans had one advantage the others underestimated: adaptability. I spent the next few hours in the archives, sifting through old research on the Voidstalker. What I found was alarming. The creature didn't just rely on strength, it was a master of psychological warfare. It studied its prey, exploited weaknesses, and attacked at the perfect moment. It wasn't a beast. It was a strategist. Most species tried to overpower it. They failed. But what if, instead of fighting it head-on, I thought like it? The mission briefing came through my holopad. The Voidstalker had been sighted in a derelict space station orbiting a dead star. I had limited supplies, no backup, and a 48-hour window before the Academy declared me missing in action. I glanced at the dismissal bell. Other students were already preparing their weapons, exosuits, and combat gear. I had no high-tech arsenal, no energy-based restraints. Just my wits and a plan that wasn't fully formed yet. As I packed my gear, a simple survival kit, reinforced netting, and a handful of custom-built sensory dampeners, I felt the weight of the challenge ahead. I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the fastest. But I was human. And that had to count for something. The station loomed ahead, a skeletal wreck drifting in the void. Its exterior was scarred from battles long forgotten, its lights flickering like a dying breath. As my shuttle docked, the airlock groaned, sealing me inside a place that had been abandoned for centuries except for one occupant. The Voidstalker was here. Somewhere. Watching. I moved carefully, my boots barely making a sound against the corroded metal floor. The station's gravity fluctuated, making every step unpredictable. A lesser species would struggle, but humans were used to adapting. I kept my breathing steady, every sense on high alert. The first sign of the creature was subtle, too subtle for most. A faint distortion in the air, like heat waves on a desert horizon. I froze. The reports had said it could bend light, making it nearly invisible. I wouldn't get a second chance if I misread the signs. A loud crash echoed from deeper within the station. Not random. A test. It was gauging my reaction. I didn't move. Most beings would panic, turn toward the noise, give away their position. I did the opposite, shifting my stance, pretending I hadn't noticed. A waiting game. The Voidstalker moved again, this time behind me. Closer. I exhaled slowly. It wasn't just a predator, it was a hunter. And it was used to preying on creatures that relied on sight and speed. That meant it had never faced something like me before. I reached for my sensory dampeners, activating them one by one. Small, barely noticeable devices, but enough to disrupt the electromagnetic fields the creature used to stalk its prey. The air wavered again, confused. Good. I continued forward, scanning the layout. The station's blueprints suggested a power core chamber near the center, filled with dense structures that could work to my advantage. If I could lure it there, I had a chance. A low, guttural sound vibrated through the corridor. Not a roar. Not a threat. A chuckle. It knew I was different. A sharp movement to my right. A clawed appendage lashed out, inches from my arm. I ducked, rolling into a side passage. The creature didn't pursue immediately. It was testing me. Fine. I'd test it right back. I activated a pulse beacon, a small device that sent out irregular bursts of light and sound, random, unpredictable. The Voidstalker hesitated. It wasn't used to uncertainty. That hesitation was all I needed. I darted toward the power core chamber, hearing it follow. Not rushing. Studying. It thought it was still in control. It wasn't. The trap was already set. It just didn't know it yet. The chamber was massive, filled with towering conduits and thick cables snaking along the walls. Dim emergency lighting flickered, casting jagged shadows across the space. Perfect. Shadows meant nothing to a creature that could bend light, but movement. Movement it had to process. And that gave me an opening. The Voidstalker entered, slow and deliberate. Its shape rippled, shifting between visibility and nothingness, testing how much I could see. I gave no indication that I noticed. Instead, I kept my movements erratic, unpredictable, just like the beacon still pulsing behind me. It hesitated again. It wasn't used to prey behaving like this. I reached into my pack, pulling out a small reflective disc. A crude but effective decoy. With a flick of my wrist, I sent it spinning across the floor. The second it moved, the Voidstalker lunged, faster than anything I'd ever seen. Its limbs extended, slicing through the air, but the moment it struck the decoy, it realized its mistake. That's when I activated the dampening field. A low hum vibrated through the chamber as the field expanded, disrupting the electromagnetic patterns the creature relied on. For the first time, it faltered. Its form flickered wildly, struggling to stabilize. It wasn't used to being at a disadvantage. I moved. Fast. Releasing the reinforced netting from my pack, I swung it overhead, aiming for the moment its body fully materialized. The net wasn't special, not by alien standards, but the weight distribution was. Designed to counteract the Voidstalker's shifting density, it latched onto the creature's limbs, throwing off its balance. It screeched, a sharp, grating sound of pure frustration. It thrashed, trying to phase out, but the dampening field held. Every flicker of its body was weaker than the last. It was running out of options. For the first time, it was the one trapped. I took slow steps forward, keeping my breathing steady. It turned its head toward me, if it even had a head. Its form was unstable now, no longer the perfect predator lurking in the dark. It was staring at something it didn't understand. A human. A species that wasn't the strongest, fastest, or most advanced. Yet here I was, standing over it. Not because of brute force. Not because of superior technology. But because I adapted. Because I saw the problem differently. Its movements slowed, its struggles fading. Not out of exhaustion. Out of something else. Recognition. The predator had just learned what it meant to be prey. The Voidstalker lay tangled in the reinforced net, its body twitching as it tested for weaknesses. There weren't any. It wasn't used to failure. I could almost feel its frustration, the way its tendrils flexed as if trying to comprehend what had just happened. I activated my communicator. Professor, the Voidstalker is secured. Silence. Then a sharp click as Zalvorn's voice came through. Repeat that. I have it contained. A pause. Then laughter, harsh, chittering. Impossible. A new sound joined the transmission. Other students, listening in. Some whispering in disbelief. Others outright denying it. No human could have done this. The Zorkath, the Azari, the Warborn, none of them had succeeded. Yet here I was. The station trembled as my ship's autopilot engaged the docking clamps. Time to bring the prize home. As I hauled the secured creature aboard, it made no move to resist. It had learned something today. So had the rest of the academy. The flight back was quiet, but the moment I stepped into the docking bay, the silence broke. A crowd had gathered, students, professors, researchers. Some glared. Some stared. A few muttered among themselves, searching for explanations that didn't exist. Zalvorn stood at the front, mandibles clicking in a way I had never heard before. Unease. Maybe even respect. He stepped forward, examining the restrained Voidstalker with cold, calculating eyes. How? He finally asked. I shrugged. I paid attention. The professor's eyes narrowed. He knew it wasn't that simple. But he also knew I wasn't about to give him an answer wrapped in equations and theories. It wasn't something they could categorize, something they could replicate in a lab. It was just being human. Vex pushed through the crowd, his usual smirk nowhere to be seen. You actually did it. It wasn't admiration. More like reluctant acceptance. I leaned in slightly. Guess I don't need a backup clone after all. He scowled but said nothing. Zalvorn exhaled, stepping back. It seems I underestimated you. No apology. No grand acknowledgement. Just a statement of fact. But that was enough. The Voidstalker shifted slightly in its bindings, eyes locked onto me. Not with hatred. Not even fear. Understanding. I smiled. Guess we both learned something today. A sharp chime echoed through the bay as the Academy's system logged my success. Mission complete. Zalvorn's mandibles twitched. Prepare yourself, human. Your next assignment will be more challenging. I laughed. Of course it would be. But that was fine. After all, I was just getting started.